Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will, Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast on this Tuesday. Sterling Holmes and the devilishly handsome, great hair, phenomenal sweater polo combo. A man who's in Florida, Josh Brisco. Brisco, baby, you're looking good.
Thank you, my friend. I need the gassing up right now. It is full Florida man energy. You know, the fact that I have something covering my shoulders right now is stunning. It's really a truly incredible act of professionalism on my part because it is hot and it is humid here, but it's very, very good down in this muggy state. Just hanging off the edge of this occasionally beautiful country. And yeah, man, I'm in a good headspace and having a good time. I know you've got like 10 Chiefs news stories you're going to ask me to comment on today. I'm pretty sure they've been busy this week, but I certainly cannot complain. I am very, very well.
What's even funnier is I'm wearing a Holmes Beach shirt right now, which is in Florida.
This has always been a beachy show.
How many bath salts have you partaked in?
Well, I've taken them from lots of people, but right now I'm just building up my collection. I've got seashells and bath salts and manatees.
Somehow I think they let you fly back with those. There's like, oh, you're in Florida? Yep, go ahead. Throw them in your carry-on.
Stu, no joke. Of the things I just joked about there, and let's be clear, authorities, they were jokes. The most illegal thing would be the manatees. They are protected, and rightfully so. Yeah. They're incredible creatures. But if I had, smuggled in some illegal manatees in here, I'd be getting swatted before this show ended. I was gonna say there are no manatees in here. There is a stuffed manatee on the other side of the room, a plushie, not a taxidermied. Stu, you gotta take over. I gotta bar the door.
I did see a manatee when I was down there last time. I went a couple times ago, probably. I was kayaking, and a manatee just right there. And they're slightly terrifying because they are very large, and they are not afraid to flip your shit. So I'm in a kayak and was like, please don't flip me. I'll pet you. This is cool, but please don't
touch them. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. And Sterling didn't touch them because if he did, that would have been a crime, and he would never admit to a crime on this podcast.
Well, I didn't. I've probably admitted to many crimes on many podcasts, but this was actually one where I did not pet. This is truth.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter anymore. I believe you. But yeah, there's a place a couple hours north of here that last time Renee and I were down here, we went and did, and you can dive with the manatees, and they're unbelievable. Really like couch sized, nearing their larger state. Truly enormous. But also they're just like incredibly sweet, chill, floating pillows. If I remember correctly, their teeth are literally so far into their mouth that they could not bite you. Like they use their big snout to pull up like seagrass and stuff and then slurp it in, and then they can chew it on the way down, I think is what they told me at the time. It's been a little while. But they are, remarkable creatures. Fully endorse legal forms of being around manatees, and I don't endorse any illegal ways of being around manatees.
I do endorse that the Chiefs are not having the rookies and Patrick and IR players going to training camp 3 days early, because that means less work. Yay! Thank you for thinking about the media, Andy Reid. You're a sweetheart. Do want to get to a couple questions before we get into Chiefs talk here, or at least comments that I find funny. Joshua, hey, hun, get the popcorn. That one guy with the mustache and the guy from the Life Aquatic are on. That's great. Good call.
I've seen 2 Wes Anderson movies in the last 2 days, by the way. So delightful.
Love that. Slothy. I think Briscoe's confused about Florida Man Energy. To me, Florida Man Energy screams some crazy methed up crime involving nudity and a crocodile.
Still got one more day here.
It would actually be a gator.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good call.
So unless I guess you're in the Everglades, but yeah.
I could ask my sister. I do not think she wants to be on this podcast in any way whatsoever, but she is my authority in all things Floridian life.
Also, no, I didn't say I petted a manatee. I said I petted a man in a T. That's great. That's
also
Lebo
doable in Florida. Yeah, I think that also may happen.
I did pet Lebo today. And then Price, he's back from Canada. Then Price said, "Holy aura from Brisco." Yeah, it's a good look. It's a good.
Thank you very much. I've really been in kind of a no man's land on the hair, and I'm trying to find it while I'm in Florida, and then maybe I can bring these beach waves back with me.
This might be over my dome. Caleb says, "Did you see Barbara Manatee?"
Barbara Manatee, 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 you're the one for me, one for me, one for me. You're the one I love. One I love. It's a VeggieTales song.
I actually like VeggieTales.
Barbara Manatee
going way back
is
Water Buffalo.
Top
Everyone's
5.
a Water Buffalo.
Everybody's got a Water Buffalo. Yeah, I think those are both top 5 silly songs. If I'm being honest. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave. We're on first name bases with Larry, but yeah, it's a good clarification.
Yeah. All right. Seriously, training camp talk. 3 days are being given back, although it's not really given back. It's like when your boss has a meeting scheduled and they finish 20 minutes early. And it's like, I'll give you 20 minutes back. It's like, well, no, you took 40. You still took 40. So I don't know if you're really giving it back. We appreciate it, but your largesse is not that impressive right now. This is kind of funny because Andy Reid traditionally does have the players off of IR, and quarterbacks go to training camp 3 days early. Obviously, Mahomes has now been around a long time. He keeps going to Super Bowls, maybe a few days off for him. Rookie-wise, a lot of times it breaks down to you want to at least do 7-on-7. Obviously, you might not be able to do 11-on-11, but if you can at least do 7-on-7 with the amount of rookies, I don't think that was going to be possible because there's also no one really coming off of IR.
Yeah.
I think it would have been Rashee Rice, and that's about it.
Sky Moore erasure.
I guess, yeah, Sky Moore.
We don't know what his injury was, but he was on IR, abdomen, whatever. Yeah.
His hands.
I didn't say that.
I did. Yeah, because Watson came back, Kareem Hunt came back. Not Kareem Hunt. Isaiah Pacheco came back. There wasn't really a plethora of dudes who needed to come back early to get that work in, and just how it actually, like NFL speaking, breaks down. You couldn't have had those guys come back. So, I guess Jared Wiley, I guess, could have been in that camp as well.
He was out there doing a little bit of work in minicamp, though. He got hurt so early. It's really interesting. I mean, I don't know if it's really interesting. It's June interesting because there are times where Andy's, had in training camp, you get a couple good days of work in, and there's nothing more football coach than this. You get a couple good days of work in, and then the next day, 3 or 4, after some brutal days, you get a lighter day, you get a day off, you get a little bit of an easy, Andy Reid is going to push the pedal down for all of training camp as hard as possible to the point of it being harmful, right? And before that point, he is about speed and loading as much as you can into those training camp practices and never wasting a moment and all of that. I wonder if there was anything more detailed about this particular decision, but you already mentioned a few of those things. The fact that it hasn't changed on a year-to-year basis makes me wonder about, well, is it the IR? Is it this rookie class? I think it may be about Mahomes as much as anything, because he doesn't need to be there to spend 3 extra days with the guys who are not the main guys he's going to be working with. And I don't know, maybe I haven't seen if there was any info on this. Let me know. Maybe Pat told him, off to the side somewhere, hey, I don't think we need to do this. We've really hit it in OTAs and mini camp. I mean, full participation for all the mandatory stuff. And you have the Camp Mahomes down in Texas that he's obviously getting those pass catchers involved and all of that. Plus, you're going to have this next month of this sort of dead period. Wouldn't surprise me at all if you see something there. I don't know. You got to make sure you don't eschew the rules of the NFLPA and all of that. But I think it makes perfect sense to just bring everybody in together because you're not trying to give Patrick Mahomes 3 extra days to learn about football. He's, on a pretty good track there. This rookie class, I think you've seen what is Josh Simmons going to do through the first 3 days without actually being next to, I guess, Kingsley Suamataia, next to Creed Humphrey, next to Trey Smith, probably. He was there at minicamp. Yeah. So it makes sense, but it's noteworthy that it's different because Andy Reid does not change. He doesn't change his practice and training camp schedules very often in my memory.
It's just one of those things where I like what Tranview said, season's long enough. And especially now when you're going to back Super Bowls, you're playing into deep February. They've earned it.
Yep.
They've earned the time off, and who knows, maybe Andy doesn't want to do it, but it's one of those situations where he thinks it's best for the team and best for Mahomes and best for just moving forward because, I think that's an underrated aspect is how many extra games this team has played than the rest of the NFL. The fact that they're perpetually going to Super Bowls is a feat of its own based on, again, you're playing almost an entirely full season compared to other teams. You have that extra game on your legs, your arms, the hits you take, all of that. And it's more competitive, those games. Do 3 of those games equal 4? It's like 12-ounce beers versus 16. It's like, we only had 3 beers, but there were 16 ounces instead of 12. So how many did you really have? Did you have 4? Did you have 3? Right? Who knows the math?
Half, I think.
Well, no, 4 before because 48 ounces, 48 divided by 4 is 12. I can only do math in beers.
Got that? Okay, you're good. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, I forgot. I didn't mean to step to your passion in math, which is
right. And then you have to get in the AA, the ABV, all that stuff. So it's like 4.2 versus like 5.1 versus 5.9.
And then you got to get to the AAV, the average annual value of those beers. Yes. How much did I spend on those beers? Should I be getting the 16 instead of the 12s? It's this is the math that we do.
This is the math, right? And so that's where I'm at, and Slothy goes like, haven't we had like 6 seasons in the last 5? Yeah, basically because of the amount of extra postseason games the Chiefs have been playing. So
it's interesting to see them again, like revisiting that with that all in mind. That hey, we have done something genuinely unprecedented as an NFL team, something that has not been done this way, and nearly completed the completely unprecedented three-peat. You have to. This is an Andy Reid taking pads away for the vast majority of training camp. This is a small tweak to try to maybe keep a little bit more gas in that tank for when the reps matter even more. And now, kind of the fun thing within all of this, now the first day of training camp, I mean, there's still going to be a ramp up, I suppose, but the first day in pads is going to be even hotter than usual in theory, because you're going to have these rookies making their St. Joe debut the same time Travis Kelce's in St. Joe after being in Paris the night before. Probably not the night before, but you know what I mean. It's going to be a very fun training camp. It is still a little ways away, and we're going to have some fun shows in the meantime.
Josh Simmons, according to Andy Reid, looks like a go for training camp, and I am thrilled, shocked, all of it in between. I cannot get over I guess how quickly it seems he's overcome said insane injury. And if he's this far along, part of me is sitting here wondering, well, then why the hell did 31, I don't want to say 31 other teams, but let's say 8 other teams pass on him? Because I doubt the past 3 weeks, all of a sudden he's gone from, this is very terrifying to, oh no, he's good to go. Like, I don't know whether I should.
Andy was bullish on draft night,
and he was, but Veach gave him the old like settle down. Come on, let's settle down a little bit. But I guess I don't know how to view it. I've viewed it from the prism of just excited, thrilled, because obviously I'm a Chiefs fan as well. Not just I cover, I fan over the Chiefs. So I'm going to be thrilled about that now. I'm thrilled about where he's at. But I guess that part of me is still wondering, well, it couldn't have just happened that quick where he got this healthy. Why did those other teams pass? I know we heard the rumblings of the San Diego State, Ohio State combo, but that seemed far-fetched.
Seemed like a reach to me.
You're not going to pass on a top 10 left tackle talent because he didn't adjust well to Ohio State originally. You're like, no, come on, dude. Like, that's you trying to find a reason why or trying to talk something back. How excited should we be?
I think you should be overjoyed. I don't think that's the same as raising your expectations in an enormous amount, but I think your excitement level should be a 10, because I really do think the best case scenario on draft night, I mean, I don't know. You could, if everybody's got plenty of free time and really loves hearing us talk, go find out what we said on the first Tuesday after the draft show. If we said about Josh Simmons, I'm sure I said if he was wearing pads in week 1 on the sideline, it'd be an unbelievable win. If he was available, I think I probably said that if he was available to actually play in the back half of the season, that would be a win. For him to be apparently a full go for training camp is remarkable. I do not think you need to immediately now put the pressure on him to be a day 1 starter. I think there was a little bit of the lessons learned last year with Kingsley at left tackle and how quickly that went to hell. But I do think I understand having Jalen Moore got a lot of money, and if this works out next year, Jalen Moore is going to be your right tackle, making quite a bit of money, and you're going to be fine with it. If Josh Simmons is a legit starting left tackle, which you're hoping that he becomes, be thrilled with the health of Simmons. The only other thing, and this is, I guess, was within the school stuff too, maybe. After the Chiefs drafted him, we got that report, I think from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, got that report that there were some character concerns more so than the physical concerns with Josh Simmons. I'm still baffled by that. And I've asked a couple of people, it's like, where did this come from? What is this about? And I haven't really gotten anybody's like all clear. I'm not texting his high school coaches or whatever, but I still haven't gotten a satisfactory answer to what are these supposed character concerns that had him falling as well. That's the kind of stuff you hear before the draft. And you're like, yeah, maybe some teams are trying to tank a stock a little bit, or maybe you're getting a little bit of telephone thrown around here. For that to come out after the Chiefs picked him was very, very strange. The staff has been glowing, talking about him. Simmons' attitude seems amazing. And clearly he has done everything you could ask him to do in the rehab process, because look where he is now. So I think you tip your hat to the surgeon, you tip your hat to Simmons, you tip your hat to the Chiefs medical staff, and you hope training camp arrives, that he's out there full contact day 1, and your options are open. Now you have a battle between 2 left tackles this year who both would have blown last year's left tackle battle out of the water.
Yeah. Part of me, I don't want to say skeptic, but part of me wants to take back a little bit, because we were actually pretty excited about last year's, at least I was, and I was probably more or less in the minority, but I thought, okay, yeah, Wanya Morris is your floor, and then Kingsley Suamataia. Well, look at all these great things we've heard. Well, that was because we heard and didn't see. We still really haven't seen Josh Simmons do it. We've heard he looks really good, right? It's because we haven't really been, there's the closed portion to the media, all that stuff. So we'll find out. But again, I'm very optimistic overall, because again, I do think Jalen Moore, my thoughts there. I think that was a very astute pickup. I really enjoy that move. Again, I think the process was correct. Obviously, people will complain if, hey, yeah, sure, man, he's a backup, a lot of money for a backup, but the process was still good. That is all you can go off of, because you would have had no idea that Simmons would have fallen to 32 at that point. Again, even with the injury, a lot of mocks had him going before the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs would have been, screwed.
And if they go into that without a left tackle, if they were going this entire offseason up until the draft and saying, no, we think Kingsley Suamataia is our left tackle again, and you know what? He and Wanya Morris are going to compete in training camp for the starting job in 2025. It would have been the worst smokescreen of all time. We would have known they were taking a left tackle in the first round, and then the price goes up. Then instead of moving back from 31 to 32, they're probably looking to move up more aggressively to find, if not Simmons, one of those left tackles, because if you simply could not run back last year's plan. And of the left tackle deals that went out, I still prefer Jalen Moore's. And I will still say, again, I think you should be thrilled about the reports of Josh Simmons' health. You can cash that check at training camp if he's there day 1. If he's not, we've been lied to by Andy Reid at the podium. That happens sometimes. It's not our fault.
Can you blame him from being excited?
No, yes. Just injury-wise, just tell us what you know as much as you can, right? I get it. But I still think right now, and I'll flip this question to you, I think it's 60-40 Jalen Moore, Josh Simmons for week 1 starting left tackle. I think Jalen Moore still has the inside track, but that is the highest percentage that I've given Josh Simmons since they drafted him.
Yeah, I would agree. I was going to ask you that question, and I'm leaning Jalen Moore. I've left Jalen Moore.
Close?
Yeah, it's getting a lot closer than I thought. I think it's a legit camp battle. Again, it's very funny. I don't think in life I'm a very risk adverse person. Like I like having, like, I'm not going to go skydiving necessarily, but I'll like go cliff jumping or whatever it is I did in the Ozarks. That's fun. Like
I think you might have chosen the more dangerous thing, by the way, of those two.
Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know. I'm not necessarily like the
Clearly
most.
You're not risk averse. You'll jump off a cliff.
Well, like cliff's a strong word, but like you're up pretty high.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
jumping into the Ozarks. So
I don't really want to do that, just personally.
Yeah.
I might be more risk averse than you.
And so it's funny when I find myself being fairly risk adverse when it comes to sports a lot of times. When it comes to football, almost specifically, I like the floor guy. I've really enjoyed the Chiefs' method of Karlaftis might not be, Myles Garrett, but we know that he's going to be a productive player and can play all 3 downs. Let's go that route. That's why I love that draft pick. I said before the draft, the Chiefs should go after a George Karlaftis type and get George, right? I like that move. Now, I also like, because this is where it would bite me, I probably wouldn't have traded up for Trent McDuffie. Because I'm like, what if you miss on that draft pick? Sure. What if you miss? And that's what I'd be thinking. It's why Brett Veach, I think, has a really good grasp on aggressive without being overly so, right? It's not detrimental to the team, okay? So there's a little bit of back and forth there. So I find myself, that's kind of a little based on where I'm at. So everyone can have their own opinion. It's why I like Jalen Moore, at least week 1, first 4 weeks maybe. See what Jalen Moore does, because he's going to be the higher floor guy, I would have to imagine. He's played in the NFL. He's played for a good organization and a good team. He's filled in, and he was solid. I'm not saying he was great, but he was solid. He was not a disaster. First 4 weeks, let Jalen Moore play and then evaluate from there. If Jalen Moore looks really good and you're going here and you're saying, man, yeah, no, he's our guy for now. He's our guy, barring injury. He's looked really, really good. You're in a great spot. If he looks fine, then you can reassess after 4 games, 6 games, 8 games. Let Josh Simmons really get his feet underneath him. Let him learn the playbook. Let him look and see in an NFL game what it looks like, because he did sit it an entire season basically last year, right? So like that game speed is going to be different, not just training camp, but game speed, and then the adjustments from the Big Ten obviously into the NFL. Now, if Jalen Moore is brutal after 4 games,
oh yeah.
Well, now you have a great option.
Great. Yeah.
Well, yeah, not a great, but you have a great option behind him. So I think there's different ways of looking at it. If it were me, again, this is me. From what we know now on June 24th, pre-training camp, my estimation would be give Jalen Moore a 4-game sample size as your starting left tackle, and then evaluate from there.
I'm good with that. I will say that if we know from Andy Reid, if Jalen Moore is your starting left tackle in week 1 and he is perfectly fine, if he's Jawan Taylor without the penalties. Jawan Taylor without the penalties is like a really good player that we just doesn't exist in that way, But if Jalen Moore is essentially Jawan Taylor, I don't think they're gonna pull him for the rookie, right? Like I don't think that's gonna be there would have to be a either disaster or just a really poor stretch of a few games of below average play where he's getting Mahomes in trouble. The thing about your risk and risk aversion that I think is interesting is it's also situational to position. I would say that I also am certainly in draft strategy. I'd be risk averse. I want to have more picks and more bites at the apple rather than trading a bunch of picks and going and getting Trent McDuffie. Obviously that deal worked out amazingly. I will be risky at almost every turn with quarterbacks. I'm the guy that would have drafted Anthony Richardson. I like to think I'm the guy that would have drafted Josh Allen. I'm the guy that drafted Patrick Mahomes, and also the guy, you fill in your gaps there.
I did say Josh Allen. I got that one right. I also said Trey Lance.
Yeah. So, you figure out I can't win them all. You figure out where that line gets drawn for you in terms of what the risk and reward truly are. The Niners giving up all those picks to go get Trey Lance, a guy who I'm curious in retrospect what they thought the ceiling was, what they thought the reward was there. Maybe it's just he flamed out so bad that now, it's tainted in retrospect. But they risked so much, and I don't know what the best case scenario for Trey Lance would have been. And then they stumble into Brock Purdy and pay him, and he's a very good player. But I wouldn't have wanted it. I don't blame the Niners. I wouldn't have wanted to give Brock Purdy the contract that they just gave him, because I think his floor is very high, and I think his ceiling is not a whole lot higher than his floor. He's a better. The discourse on Brock Purdy actually has gone full circle. I think now he's a better player than he gets credit for on some level. He's not completely cemented in the pocket. He can make some plays off schedule. Like he's not. I don't know, Tua maybe even, right? Like in terms of kind of picking who you want those guys to be. And Tua was a player who went top 5. All that to say, you pick your times to be risky and you pick your times to be risk averse. What the Chiefs did last year at left tackle was risky. What they did this year at left tackle was expensive, but it's high ceiling and a higher floor, because you end up with Moore and Simmons. Moore for 2 years, Simmons, you hope, for 5 or 6 or 10.
Yeah. A couple of comments here before we get to our final topic here. Ronson Trait says, I don't care about training camp. I want to see Josh Simmons reps versus Josh Sweat week 1 of the preseason. Love that. Yeah, preseason, I want to see a ton of
Kingsley look good in the preseason too, Ron. I'm just going to say, like, I think training camp matters for Josh Simmons' health. I think if he's playing in week 1 in Brazil, we're really looking at Josh Simmons now. But again, Kingsley had an okay sample size in the preseason too.
Yeah. Justin Blackwell, if they give whichever left tackle any help whatsoever, Kingsley has the right to pick Andy in the peanuts emoji. That's actually very funny. Yeah, because you're right. That's actually, I always thought it was a little perplexing. You know my thoughts on this. Kingsley was bad.
Yep.
But
But
the offense of game plan and the scheme, they never helped him.
no.
Like, give the 21-year-old raw left tackle prospect some help. What are we doing here? I will always find it fascinating that they gave up on Kingsley so early. I think there had to have been something, because that was Andy's call, right? We heard a little bit about that. How Andy was more or less the one, Andy Reid, not Heck. Because I believe we heard afterwards that Heck wanted to keep him at left tackle, and Andy Reid was like, this is not going to happen. I've said for a while now, and that's why my philosophy changed on the Chiefs drafting left tackles. They're in win now mode. You have a $500 million quarterback there. If you are not going to allow a raw prospect to develop in the NFL, then why are you drafting them?
Right.
Right.
Because
Because Eric Fisher, for example, he would not have been in this current regime where the Chiefs are currently at. Eric Fisher would probably not have made it past year 2 as a starting left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
They would have pulled the plug and gone somewhere else, right? More than likely, they actually would have, because he was not good his first 2 years. Kingsley was so bad his first 2 games, but I kept going. If he played for the Jets or the Panthers or just pick a team that's bad, he'd have gotten all 17 games guaranteed. And maybe he blossomed into, again, I always go to Andrew Thomas for the Giants, who was so bad year 1, it was horrendous. And then all of a sudden, year 2, year 3 on, he's been a really good left tackle. We'll never know with Kingsley. It'll always be a what if. I'm pissed at the game plan, because I do think Jalen Moore and Josh Simmons overall are even better than what Kingsley's potential was last year. I just always found that situation perplexing in my eyes. Before we get out of here, the Rashee Rice news, if you want to call it news, but looking like he's good to go for training camp, I would argue is more important than Josh Simmons being healthy for training camp. I think at least in 2025, I think in 2026 and beyond, the answer is probably Josh Simmons. What's more important? 2025, though, I think the answer is Rashee Rice. I think he is going to be the focal point, the X factor of this offense, not even what he does stat-wise himself, but what he does to open up Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy deep and Hollywood Brown over the middle, and giving, quite frankly, Patrick Mahomes that safety blanket that felt like was gone last year, right? Travis Kelce was that blanket without the explosiveness or the results. I think Rashee Rice can open up the offense for every single weapon, and I think it will make the offensive line and left tackle spot a little easier when Patrick knows, hey, I got a guy I can trust. He knows where to be, and he can turn that 5 into 15 most of the time.
I'll do a little cross promo here because that's going to be something we talk about quite a bit on Only Weird Games in about an hour or so over on the KCSN YouTube channel. Because Seth just wrote about the Chiefs' problem with explosive plays last year. Something we've talked about plenty, and Seth's written about it multiple times. And we keep getting more stats and more ways to look back at last season and go, man, that really wasn't very fun or very explosive. But the offense was still kind of okay. Well, that's not plan A. Don't rely on that. What you mentioned there from Rashee Rice, that I think is the biggest thing, or at least because I'm in the headspace of those explosive plays right now, it's not just a trusted target, which matters, but I think like Juju Smith-Schuster is a trusted target. But if you throw a 6-yard pass to Juju Smith-Schuster, it's probably going to get 6 or 7 yards. If you throw a 6-yard pass to Rashee Rice, you feel really, really good about the direction he's going in, as long as he's not trying to make a tackle after an interception. And that consistency in this offense, that weapon back in this offense, with absolutely no murmurs of suspensions at this point. The last thing we heard just a week or so ago, I saw kind of flutter through, was he won't be suspended till the criminal charges are up. I don't think we've ever seen criminal charges still. Like, it's just, that's how, I'm not here to be an expert on it. I'm here to say it is such a muddy, cloudy mess that I don't know if the NFL really wants to get involved, if that's their headspace. And I don't think the Texas law is putting Rashee Rice at the top of their list right now, just in terms of the way that how slowly that's moved. He is looking for again, you want to talk about things that have changed for me in the last month. It looks really, really likely that Rashee Rice is playing 16, 17 games for the Chiefs this year, and that's massive. He was on an unbelievable trajectory before he got hurt last year, and it takes, like you said, it takes some of that burden off of everybody. It takes a lot of burden off Travis Kelce. It takes a lot of the burden off of a guy like Juju, who you just want a little more from. He just, at least last year, he didn't quite have a little more to give. It takes attention away from Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, even as they're very different players. They're complementary pieces. So I know that it's very easy to look at a team that just made the Super Bowl, obviously got blown out in the Super Bowl, and then say, hey, just do these things. Try last year's plan again. They did the run it back campaign and it didn't work. This is the run it back campaign with the amended left tackle position, where I'm looking at the offense and say, if you have solved left tackle, even if you have the double dip 1 year to make it happen, if you solve left tackle and Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce are just generally healthy. Sorry, I was getting healthy, and I can't hear myself in this microphone that I'm using today, so I'm all out of sorts. I've made it 33 minutes without saying Travis Kelce. If you get to that point with all those weapons healthy enough to have this offense on time, the entire playbook opens up. The entire team feels different, and the Chiefs can be like exciting and explosive again, which I very much look forward to.
I want to leave it here because I think this is a great question from Joshua in the chat. It says, are Worthy and Hollywood equals going into this year, or is one of them clearly the second option and the other third? So I think there's going to be something where, even with Rashee Rice, there's going to be a 1, 2, 3 snap count share, 11 personnel versus 12 personnel, which the Chiefs are still going to run a lot of 12, which means you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets and all that. I am ready to say, I think Worthy, I don't know what it's going to say in the depth chart, but I think when we look at the end of the year, we'll say it was Rice, it was Worthy, and then Hollywood. I'm pretty convinced of that, and maybe I'm a little too optimistic on the deep ball coming back, but maybe it's also because I'm just optimistic on Xavier Worthy and how I think he blossomed after the injuries to Rice and Hollywood. How I think that if you want to look glass half full about the injuries, Worthy went from being you're going to run streaks, baby. Come on, just go down there. Come on, John Brown. Not actually John Brown, but just in general, you're running deep. He had to learn the entire playbook of basically 3 wide receiver spots, because it went from, okay, the deep ball's not working, and no one can take this Rashee Rice role, this power slot situation. Hey, Xavier, let's see what you can do. Xavier Worthy doesn't have the same yak ability as Rice because he gets tripped up a lot easier. Just he's more slender. That's not going to be his role in the slot, because as quick, as elusive as he is, you get a hand on him. We saw last year he went down. Not a knock on him. No player's perfect, right? It's just he was learning almost on the fly in that situation. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be phenomenal this year. I'm pretty high on Hollywood Brown, but I feel like I have to talk myself into Hollywood Brown more when it almost feels like Xavier Worthy, I see more paths for success. Maybe I'm wrong. Where do you see this?
No, I think we're very closely aligned there. I do think I'd give the edge to Worthy, but it is just an edge, and that's a compliment to both of them. Because Hollywood has obviously, I mean, he's been in the league longer, but he has done more in his NFL career than Worthy has to this point. I don't think you have to work, at least I don't think I have to work that hard to see Hollywood fit in, because I just remember the things that I said and believed and rooted for last offseason. And it just completely got derailed. And the type of injury he had doesn't scare me any. I think he's going to be back to 100%, at least in theory. I'm pretty high on Hollywood, and I think I had a big Hollywood prediction a month or so back because I was kind of baking in, like, I don't know if Rice is going to be on the field the first 4-6 games of the season for one of those two reasons. And now I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe he will be. I'm pretty optimistic about both of them. I think I'm more optimistic, and this might be really the contracts. I mean, Hollywood's got another 1-year deal, and Xavier Worthy is going to be here a while. He's going to be with Patrick Mahomes for a while. I think it's more important, and also he's going to be on the team his contract right now runs 1 year beyond Rashee Rice's. I think the Chiefs have an incentive to make Xavier Worthy the guy as much as possible, not necessarily over Rice, but as much of the guy as he can be, to really figure out the width and breadth of what he can do at the NFL level. I think they have every incentive to make him the centerpiece of a lot of the things that they do. And then Hollywood becomes like an egregious tertiary weapon, a guy where you say, hey, so we are building this offense around Rice and Hollywood by and large, or excuse me, Rice and Worthy by and large. And then Hollywood is the guy who's playing off the matchup he gets. And if that's the way it works, that's a good place to be as an offense. And I know we're just talking about the receivers. Where do you put Travis Kelce in that hierarchy in terms of where Patrick Mahomes, because he could be 1 and he could be 4, not in terms of, if he has more targets than Rashee Rice this year, something bad has happened with Rashee Rice. But you really could make an argument for Kelce slotting in kind of anywhere in there, which I, again, think is more of a testament to how much better this room feels right now. Although it felt great around this time last year, and then injuries started.
I will also point out, it even behooves the Chiefs more because you have the 5th-year option on Worthy.
Yep.
So you actually would have 2 years, technically, more than Rashee Rice. I love your point of Kelce could be 1 or 4, and I guess I wouldn't be shocked. I think that's a valid point to make, as well as the excitement level last year. But I think even more so because we saw what Worthy did last year, and so now we know exactly what he can be. I think of this very much in the same vein as the Lions of Rice and Worthy, as Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know if Rashee Rice is quite as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, he was pacing to have that sort of season last year, full transparency. But again, we've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown do it now multiple years, although I hated what he said about Kansas City recently, which is a bummer because I've interviewed him a few times. I really like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a really smart guy, and that was a very dumb thing that a smart guy said. Made me very irate. I was like, dang it, Amon-Ra. Come on. I take back the German idea I gave you with you and Jared Goff. It's retracted. If you use it, I will now. I'll still take a lot of credit for it. Come on. But Jamison Williams breaking out last year, and I think he kind of has the same sort of skill set as Xavier Worthy. So that's what I'm saying. I think I see that too. But then they have Sam Laporta. Don't get me wrong. That ain't Travis Kelce.
Right.
They have what? Khalif Raymond, or I'm trying to think of who their wide receiver 3 really is. That ain't Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
Right. So a little different there. And again, they do obviously have Jahmyr Gibbs and David.
He was my answer for their wide receiver 3. I don't think that he was probably 3rd in receptions last year, but I do like him.
So that's all I'm saying. All I know is I am bleeping thrilled about this Chiefs offense going forward. Brisco, appreciate you hanging out with us down there in Florida, the land of milk and honey.
Is that what it is? The land of guns and drugs. All right, listen, it's a peaceful oasis here in this little sliver of it. So it's still, even here, taking a little vacation, getting a little sun. Good to see you. Good to chat about some exciting things. And it is still 27 days till training camp, according to Phantom in the chat. And I'll tell you what, let me do all of us a favor. If you, dear listener, have any ideas or any suggestions or any requests for stuff that you want me and Stu to do on upcoming Stu's Days, send us a message on social. He's Homestretch KC over on Twitter. I'm not going to call it the X because it always sounds like you're talking about a former lover, and I think that's weird. I'm at JB Brisco on Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads, and my personal home address is available. No, I won't give you that. But let us know what other kind of nonsense we should do, because Sterling and I have done some nonsense over the years in the airwaves. How do you want us to help you get to training camp? That's what we're here for. We're here to get you to training camp. I would stay in Florida another week if I could, but I'll be back next week too.
Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. If you want to drop us a review, that would also be huge. You can drop us a question or an idea there as well. 5-star reviews are always lovely. You can listen to Brisco in about 50 minutes on Only Weird Games. Looks like some folks in the chat will be heading that way, including Ronson Trait. Until next time, we are out.